Hey, OYH friends. Ernie Yarbrough here, along with Hannah Stevens, excited to bring you a brand new episode, really a brand new season of the OYH podcast. For a while now, you've heard the voice of Andy Jenkins, and we kind of have entered into this new phase where we're bringing a lot more members of the team on board to speak, contribute, right? You've probably seen some stuff online, on social media, pictures, new types of things we're giving away, International Resource Day. A lot of great stuff is happening, and we're super excited to get more people involved, to get more voices for you, and to hear more stories about how we have come on our journey of health, and hopefully that will inspire you to join with us and to tell your story, and to feel like through even our story, maybe you'll gain some insight, some encouragement, and you can identify and just chime in through Facebook Messenger or whatever. Let us know if we are touching a chord that really means something to you. So I'm super excited to kind of kick off this new venue of the podcast. And what we want to do is kind of take a new angle of season here on this concept of the idea of own your health. You know, I really feel like 2020 was a season. First of all, Hannah, say hi.
Hi.
Yes, Hannah is here, believe it or not. In fact, I'm about to turn the mic over to her big time. But 2020 was really a season, obviously hard for everybody. Mm-hmm. A lot of challenges, a lot of things got probably exposed about ourselves, family, relationships, and certainly health has been a big topic. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that we kind of live passionately for here at OYH is the idea of taking health responsibly. You're taking your health and your responsibility seriously, which is really the story of Gary Young. It is a story of the seeds and the boots, the lavender, all that stuff was his passion for empowering individuals to take control of, to be able to learn, to be empowered, mm-hmm. to take control of their health. And that's kind of the passion that we have here at OYH, even above and beyond essential oils and supplements that we love and we use. And we're so thankful for them, but it's really about empowering the individual to be able to learn and make those decisions. And so in this new journey, we're going to take 3 or 4 or 5 podcasts here to explore the topic and concept of own your health. What does it mean to take ownership of something? What is health? What falls under that umbrella of health in terms of the makeup of who you are as a person, and why it's so important, and then tools and things that we have coming down the pike as well for you to help you take ownership of your health, because it's not just once you become convinced of this concept of what your health actually is, and then to take ownership of it, then you need tools in the toolboxes to do so. But I think one cool way to do that, we often bring the Lord into this podcast and on our resources. And so often, the Lord told stories and in his earthly journey, and he got people's attention, and it really rung a bell with people when he told stories, and people would listen and sit up. And really, when you kind of get lost in somebody else's story or journey, you realize maybe that's part of your story and your journey as well. So Hannah, I wanted to just have you on here to tell a pretty remarkable story of how you have grown in your health and wellness, the challenges you faced, and the pretty cool things you've done, not just as a collegiate athlete, but as a person, and some of the hurdles you've had to overcome to get where you are today. So take it away.
So I guess just to start by saying I'm Hannah, and a lot of you may know me as someone who does customer service and social media, but I'm actually friends with Ernie, and I met himself and his wife Myra at CrossFit a couple of years ago, 5 years ago actually this September, and so they kind of knew me as I was more of a healthy version of myself, but I have always been an athlete. I played sports my entire life, and I was always someone who very, very much so neglected the physical and the emotional part of health. And I was someone who ate a pizza every night in college, not realizing the ramifications of that. You can't outrun the fork, you can't out-train the fork, and it's so true. Like you can run 1,000 miles a day, but your nutrition is still going to impact your weight loss.
So would you call that the domino effect?
Yes, very, very funny. Yes, the domino effect. So I grew up in athletics. I went to the University of Alabama, and I did not go to Alabama thinking I was going to be an athlete. I had been an athlete my entire high school career, and for the first time I was like, you know what, I'm going to be more of an academic focused person.
So what did you play in high school?
I played basketball. I did track, but my majority of my focus, I played soccer from when I was 5 until freshman year of high school, but my parents kind of sat me down and said, listen, if you want to have a chance at playing a college sport, you need to focus on one sport and do it well. And so that, for me, that was basketball. And I mean, I'm short now, but I was shorter then. So I was
well, to be fair though, height is relevant to to the gender of the sport you're playing.
Yes, but I was very short, and so I think I grew after high school, but I was like 4'10", 4'11" in high school. Okay, I was very short, and so I was point guard, and so
to be fair, you've grown to how
yes.
tall now?
Like 5'2.5".
So you're really grown a lot.
Yes, a lot. But all that to say, I still wasn't taking it seriously. I mean, I loved basketball, but I guess the point is, if I knew now if I would have done then what I know now, I would have been a much better athlete. I think we're getting to a point now, and even athletics in middle school and high school, where you have more of a nutrition-focused aspect in athletics. I think you see middle school and high school students being taught by mentors. They have coaches that are more knowledgeable in that aspect for them to be like, listen, kids, what you eat is going to impact how you perform. And, I remember going to basketball games and having a bunch of those Sour Patch straws right before a game, or we'd eat ramen noodles right after the game, or we'd be eating cookies at halftime. You got away with it then, but you didn't realize that what you were putting in your body was going to not only impact your performance, but impact your health later on down the future.
That's what Kobe Bryant said. I remember he was talking, he said he used to eat a whole pizza and a bag of gummy beans or gummy worms or whatever before a game, and then he's like, it's like steak and veggies.
Seriously, it's horrible. But so I played basketball. Long story, did not play my senior year. That was a blessing in disguise. The Lord really rerouted my life from that, and realized that there was more to life than just basketball. So I went in to college, University of Alabama, Roll Tide, not really thinking I was going to be much of anything athletically. I actually got started with intramurals my freshman year. We won the state championship with every other school, so UAH, UNA, UAB, like Troy, South, like every single college, university, the state of Alabama met together.
And this wasn't basketball.
This was intramural flag football. This was intense.
Oh, wow.
This was intense. This was this fall, my freshman year of fall, and this.
So you were like a dual sport star.
Yes. Yeah, I was actually triple because it was both the same sport, flag football, but I was co-ed and just all females, all girls. But we beat every single school in the state of Alabama. It was awesome. Every university. We met in Montebello, and it was awesome. So all that to say, that was kind of a way for me to have an outlet. I was actually in the weight room my freshman year, and a coach approached me and was basically like, you lift a lot, you should be a rower, which for me, I'll be honest, everyone makes fun of me. I thought rowing was jousting. So when they asked me if I wanted to row,
I did not know that.
No, I know you didn't. I don't tell a lot of people that. But when they said you want to row, I was thinking, I literally said, I don't even know how to ride a horse.
You're like jousting. I don't have one of those. One of those horses. And one of
I don't have
is that one of those beehive suits with the fencing?
Seriously, I did not know what it was, right? And so they laughed, and so I remember going to tryouts, and there were probably, I don't know, maybe close to 100 females that were going to maybe try out, because actually it's the only Division I program, because the Title IX rowing for Alabama is only female Division I, only men's is club, right? And so it's the only Division I program you can actually learn in college. And so it was very competitive though. Now it's gotten so much more competitive, they don't really have a whole lot of room for that, but they were kind of starting it when I was in college. And so I made the team, and it was very gruesome.
How many are on a team?
There were,
you had multiple boats?
Yes, you had multiple boats. So, depending on, varsity, you had certain boats. You had 4-person boat, 8-person boat. I was actually the very back. I was a very short person. So you have to think of the boat like this. It's kind of like when you're looking, there's a coxswain who is sitting facing everyone. That's who you're looking at. We can't see what's happening. You have to trust the person you're looking at. Like I'm looking at you right now. You can see what's behind me. I can't. So the
coxswain can see behind you.
Yes.
You're rowing the opposite direction that you're facing.
It's actually very motion. If you have motion sickness, it's very. It can be very make you very sick because
that person you have to trust.
You have to trust everything. It's and it has a lot of obviously spiritual meaning in that, because it's kind of like the Lord sees where you're going, but you have no idea. You have to trust Him. You have to trust your coxswain to steer you well, because one mistake and it would kill. People die in rowing. Like it's called crabbing, where your oar goes under the boat and hits the person behind you, knocks them out of the boat. You're not wearing you're not wearing life jackets. You're wearing basically like a swimsuit, but like whole body, right? Anyway, all that to say, I made the team, loved it, but still was not nutrition focused. I was literally going in, and this is the cool thing. As an athlete, you got perks, you get all these free food, and I'm like taking advantage. I was probably costing Alabama more money they were making because of how much food I was eating, but I did not understand. And I actually graduated high school at 147, which is like I like 145 now, so
Yeah.
a little more.
Yeah.
I weigh less now than I did in high school,
Right.
but I was up to like almost 190 in college, and that's just like, I mean, that's just
a domino effect.
Yeah, seriously, that's just what happens. I mean, poor nutrition, lack of sleep. I mean, you have to realize that rowers, we were getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. When you're a student, you're sometimes staying up till midnight or 1 studying for an exam the next day. So when you have poor nutrition, lack of sleep. I don't know anything about supplements and oils. Like, what are those, right? The only thing I know is olive oil, which I'm eating plenty of, is, you know, it just adds up. And so I was very unhealthy in a lot of ways, so physically. And people look at me now still. I'll go to Tuscaloosa to see them, and they're like, you're a whole different person. Like, you look so much healthier. And that's for a lot of reasons. But I think it's important to know my background just because I am so much healthier now. And it's so frustrating, I think, to realize that if I would have cared a little bit more about my diet in college, I would have been a much better athlete. Because you have to realize that you're a math guy, Ernie. So you know a lot about, like, you know, the more you weigh, the more you're going to sink, and the buoyancy and how you want to. So it's really, they want you to be as small as possible. So you're not adding extra weight.
Ideally, you want to be small and strong as all get out, right?
Yes. And so there were some of us that were. So how the boat would work is if I'm at the very back, which I was, you would be the first person hitting the wave. So we're more the muscle of the boat, right? So we're the first ones actually encountering, if there's wind, if there's just waves, like we're in the ocean, we're the first ones hitting that first wave that's going to hit our boat. Yeah. The people closest to the coxswain, are the stroke. They're the ones giving us, you know how we row at CrossFit, there's a stroke, right? They're the ones lengthening the boat because they're taller. So it goes, the people close to the cox are the tallest. The people in the back of the boat are usually shorter but stronger. So we're the muscle. We're the ones that are having, I mean, our strokes are like this because we're hitting the water, but we're going as hard as we could.
Right.
All that to say, I think once I was no longer a rower, I had a few injuries and realized, you know what, like, I just really want to be an athlete, and I just love intramural football, and the Lord led me elsewhere. I actually helped start the University of Alabama weightlifting team, so my name will always be in the school book there for being the original co-founder of Alabama weightlifting. And from there, I did a lot with USA weightlifting and got my way into powerlifting and then CrossFit. And if to look at how my journey has gone from being someone who ate pizza to not even knowing what a macro was, to realizing now I eat predominantly organic. You know, I still eat treats here and there, we all do, but knowing that nutrition is key, and whether it's been from my ankle surgery or injuries, knowing that how I eat will impact how I recover, and how I eat will impact how I perform. And I think that's something a lot of people even now are still struggling to realize. And so thankfully I've gotten hold of my nutrition and realized that I can be a much better version of myself if I limit the things I shouldn't eat, like bread and sugar, and carbs are not bad, but everyone's body is different. So that's something too in this series that is important to know, is everyone's body's different. Right. Everyone responds differently to situations. Everyone responds differently to foods. For you, you're a guy, your body type, you can eat more carbs versus me. My body tends to become more inflamed and more groggy with carbs. That's just how my body is.
Right,
but also at the same time, I don't have a gallbladder, so I can't do keto, whereas you can eat a bunch of fat and not have any consequences. I can't digest it. So everyone's body is different, whether it's physically, emotionally, spiritually. Everyone's whole is different.
Right. Sure.
And so for me, some of the lessons I've learned, I'm excited to be able to talk about now and in the future with OYH, and get to share a female perspective, because I think a lot of time people think that it's just a men's world when it comes to performance, nutrition, athletics, all of that.
Sure.
I mean, you have plenty of, you know, not even products, but resources for men in Young Living when it comes to nutrition or recovery or performance or whatever it may look like. But for women, there's women who are scared to drink protein shakes or think they're going to get bulky. There's a lot of miscommunication, a lot of unknowns, and a lot of false information out there.
Well, I think even too, like the concept around, you know, the idea of being a woman and even touching a barbell.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's, I mean, obviously, you know, we've not hidden the fact that, you know, we even in OYH, we love the Lord, and we're faith based in that regards. But, you know, so we certainly believe that, you know, being a man or being a woman, there are differences, and those differences are not, one's not inferior to the other. It's just we're different.
Yep.
It's like different tools, and they're complementary. It's like you have different parts of a house or different parts of a toolbox, and it doesn't make one part of the house or one tool inferior. They're just different.
Yeah.
And they do the most beautiful work when they work together in their strengths and in their how they've been made and designed for greatness. And I think even there, whether it's looking back at your story, what you were saying there is just, it's really cool that you could walk on and do that even in a time when that sport was being developed. It's really kind of a unique time in the history of sports there at Alabama, and everybody knows Alabama for football, but, and a little bit more now for basketball in recent years.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, right. But just. That story where, not everybody's going to walk on at a time when rowing is being introduced and become a collegiate athlete, but just the aspect of, learning, putting on too much weight, not knowing what to eat, not knowing how to take care of yourself, and not knowing how to sleep. Like there's multiple aspects. Now that's more on the physical side of health. And as we go on in this series, we're going to talk about, there's mental health, there's emotional and spiritual and soul health. What does all that mean? How do we understand those as components? How do we process those? And then what tools in the toolbox can we have, whether it's supplements and oils, whether it's truth and knowledge, whatever it might be, to aid and help and grow those things. But we all are in this place in America, this weird place, even in some respects 2020 has kind of heightened and shown some of this, where health has been equivocated with trusting a professional, or just doing this outward thing. But the reality is that health begins on the inside of you. Health begins with a good leader, I think, is somebody who empowers those around them to make decisions and to be independent resources for themselves and for other people. And health is no exception to that. And so, I think that it's always a good thing to gauge and examine your leadership when you're saying, am I empowering the people around me to be, basically, when I'm out of the picture, are they going to be able to lead and step up and carry on? Are they going to have the knowledge and the conviction and the ownership and the tools that they need to live for themselves, to be an example for others, and to give those and pass those on to the next, the next generation that's coming? And so that story, I just think it's an exciting story of one that just reminds me of what was it Bilbo Baggins said: you have to be careful putting your foot out your door because you have no idea where it's going to happen, where you're going to go. But in that, there's again, I think that story of learning about, there's so much more to health than just rowing. Or just running, or just lifting, which kind of ties into my story because, so I grew up playing basketball. My dad had a chance back in the 70s to try out for the Pistons back in the day. And so we grew up loving basketball, and so we had an old dirt court. We beat it hard as concrete. We'd play 4 or 5, 6 hours a day. I did well in high school, had a chance to try out for a Division I team. Didn't take it. I'm sure I wouldn't have made it. I'm taller than you, but I'm still short compared to 6'6" guards, and I'm 5'11". So there've been a few short guys like me who've made it, but it wasn't my passion to even try to go on to higher sports. But I love playing ball, and but fast forward out of high school, I got married. Probably more of a typical, not as a collegiate rowing story, but a typical story for a guy. You get married, you go to work, you start having a family, kids, and things kind of.
You put on the sympathy weight.
That's right. Yeah, you get all of a sudden. We used to laugh. I saw kind of the turning point for me was through my 20s. I got out of shape and put on weight. And just in part not knowing, not having consciously understanding health outside of it's just running sprints, and it's just not knowing the whole nutritional aspect of it, and essential oils and supplements and all the things that the total health package. And the turning point for me was at one of my brother-in-laws, their wedding, and I looked back and I saw the wedding pictures, and I was horrified. Like literally, I had a gizzard, like a turkey, hanging over my. It was so. I was to this day I've kept that picture. And then later on when I lost weight, I was just horrified. So I got to do something. So I started training and trying to run. A friend of mine, a pastor, did these Ragnars. And those are they were sponsored by Reebok, and they're 12-man team overnight runs. So I was training for this, and I had this experience happen to me that I'd never have happened before. And I started pulling muscles, calf muscles, hamstring muscles, and I never. I mean, the only injury I ever had in high school was turning my ankle when I was playing basketball. So I realized that all of a sudden I wasn't 18 anymore, and I needed to have a better knowledge and understanding of for one thing, maybe a slower on-ramp speed.
Yes.
And not just starting right back at 30 years old or 32 years old, full speed. But also at that time, we were getting into Young Living and the idea of nutrition, healthier eating, and juicing, and all kinds of things like that. And so I just started to realize I'm still on that process and that journey today. But so part of it certainly in the physical side is learning as you get older how to exercise as you get older, and not pretend that you're 18 when you're not 18 anymore. But also learning for me the journey over time of what health actually consisted as far as my body and nutrition and supplements, and what it meant to take ownership of that and really step into and be aware. And the older you get, like you grow in awareness, like stuff, when you're younger, stuff just seems to happen.
Exactly.
And it's like magic. And then you get older, you're like, oh, wait a minute, there's a consciousness and awareness to this as I get into this as an adult, that now I understand how these things were happening, or now I'm more aware of my environment or my body and my mind and my soul. And so that, to me, that ownership of health, and as we step into this in the coming weeks, for me was really kicked off by realizing there's just growing to be more perceptive and aware of who you are and your body as you get older, and the reality of what health actually is. And I feel like that's where this kind of kicks off and starts, is that people have to understand to be more intentionally aware of their body and their surroundings, and learning what health actually is. That's why I love, you guys follow us, Dr. Jim Bob Haggard, and he has this great definition of what health is. It's very simple. He says health at its core consists of two things, and that is shoring up your deficiencies and removing toxins. And so that's the two basic concepts of health. You can take that and you can apply that across different spheres of health, which we hope to do in the coming weeks as we explore this idea and topic of ownership of your health, taking ownership of your health. At the end of this series, maybe sometime in the middle, we're going to have an exciting announcement of some stuff coming up this fall. We've got a whole new round of resources coming. We've got people working on new books, new courses and classes. We're just so excited in this new season of OYH to kick off some new podcast series here, new resources, and really get just so much more of our team engaged and showing their forward-facing talents, ideas, stories. We're trying to rope Hannah into writing a book in regards to...
You don't have to rope me in that hard. I've been wanting to do it for a long time.
Right. Well, yes, exactly. So it's kind of like asking you to be on a podcast and giving you a mic. So Hannah has a background in podcast work as well. So we've just got a lot of exciting things coming, even some stuff for children as well. And we're just really grateful for the opportunity to be able to share with you our heart and our passion as we move forward in this new season at OYH. So as we sign off here, we're just grateful for your time. We're thankful for this journey together.
I'm going to add one more thing you said. Ownership. I think ownership's key, because I distinctly remember, this was after I graduated college, I had started CrossFit, and I was actually an Olympic weightlifter. My coach basically in a very kind way said I was too fat for a weight class. He's like, why don't you try doing CrossFit to get down to the lower class? And it was a really great way of encouraging me to get more exercise and lose weight. So I went down, at this point, I started CrossFit weight 87. I got down to like 175, and I really needed to be in the 150s. So I started doing CrossFit, lost weight, and I had a nutrition coach who was also a CrossFit coach, Blake Prime, who looked me in the eyes and told me two things that I'll never forget. Three things. You have to take ownership. I can't do any of this for you. You have to take the initiative and take the ownership in doing this. Secondly, that's where I heard the quote of you can't out-train or outrun the fork. And the third thing was the hardest movement in CrossFit is not a snatch. It's not a clean and jerk. It's table push-aways, knowing when to stop. And that was huge for me.
Nice.
But the point of that is that it's ownership. You have to get to a point to where either you're so sick of where you are, or that you're so eager to become a better version of yourself that you take the ownership and you take control of your health. So when you said that, it was a key for me, because I was like, that is exactly how I felt. So it's so true, taking ownership.
Taking ownership. That's great. Table push-aways. So your takeaway from this podcast and everything else is low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
Right? Start where you're at, but table push-aways. Yes. Right? You may not be able to know, you may even know what a clean and jerk is, or a hang snatch, or power clean, or whatever, but we can all do table push-aways. I'm Ernie Yarbrough.
I'm Hannah Stevens.
Encouraging you to take ownership of your health, one essential oil drop, one table push away, one supplement at a time.
All fine.